Hey everybody, my name is Josh and today I'm going to make this slide out bed that has 3 storage drawers underneath and it can support up to 500 pounds and fit in a tiny little camper van. So before we jump into this project, there's a few things that I want to mention. Down in the description, you'll find build plans that are going to have a much more detailed breakdown of materials, tools, and steps to make this slide out bed. I recently partnered with Aguna and they gave me a really solid discount on this table saw in return for this build video. If you've been in the market for a new table saw, I definitely encourage you to consider Laguna. There'll be a link down in the description that will give you a lot more info on this Fusion F2. I've been using this table saw for a little over 6 months now and I've been very happy with it. With that in mind, I thought it would make sense for this to be the only saw that I use during this build, showcasing some of the cool features. Now you don't need a table saw in order to build this bed. You can definitely get by with just a circular saw. It just might be a little more challenging to be as accurate. Throughout this build video, I will be sprinkling in some of my favorite features about this saw as they come into play. That's enough of me rambling. Let's start building this thing. Probably looks terrible. We're going to start by breaking down some sheets of plywood. And this is actually a lot easier on the F2 than my old table saw because this thing has up to a 36-inch rip capacity, which I'm a fan of. Oh, I didn't turn this on. Dusty. So I don't recommend doing this type of cut on any table saw, but I'm just trying to stay true to my word here. Another nice feature, built-in push stick storage. So as I was marking out my cut lines on these stretchers, I remembered the other cool feature of this sliding fence. So what we're going to do is slide this out so it clears our blade, and this will help us get repeatable cross cuts. The main bed cabinet frame consists of a couple end panels and a handful of stretchers. I'll get this thing assembled and we'll really start to see it take shape. I'm just going to be doing a dry assembly here, but if you wanted some added strength, you could definitely put a little bit of wood glue between these joints. So the last stretcher is actually going to be installed flat like this, but we're going to use these boards that I cut, clearly too small. So I'm going to spin this big cabinet around because I actually caught a mistake. So these two pieces are actually going to be drawer dividers. If they look like they were cut from scrap wood, that's because they were cut from scrap wood. So these drawer dividers are actually going to be used both to divide the drawers, but also provide a little bit of support. And so since they're already cut, I'm just going to use them as my reference as to where this back stretcher needs to be located. You can tell I put it up in the corner, and it actually needs to be dropped down. So we're going to do that now. Oh. Now because the pocket hole screws are on the bottom of the stretcher and we're using this drawer divider as our reference, I'm going to stick this clamp on the top to make sure that it doesn't move up, because I'm going to move this divider out of the way so I can get to those screws a little better. And this clamp basically kept that stretcher from walking up any because we're using pocket holes, and they screw in at an angle. So you can see, perfect fit. I cut 3 boards that we're going to just use as references. They're all the same length, and so that's going to help me make sure I get my drawer dividers installed so that each drawer is the same exact size. Back to the montage. I'm assembling this a little out of order here, but I put a screw in the top and bottom of this drawer divider, and that allows me to be able to pivot it at the moment, because I need to add a pocket hole screw to the back, but I didn't know where they were going to land exactly. If you end up buying the build plans, don't worry about this step because the pocket hole location will be listed in there. Now that we have this thing all framed up, we're going to get started with the 3 drawer boxes. They're all going to be the same size, and they're all going to use these soft close drawer slides. I'll have a link to these down in the description. I find myself using these drawer slides a lot. This bed is going in a camper van, and so with the soft close drawer slide, it adds some resistance when you try to open them, and that helps keep the drawers closed when you're driving down the road. So let's get into it. To make drawers. I'm going to show you just a pretty quick and simple way that I like to make them. All I'm going to do is cut a groove in here for the bottom panel to slide into. Usually you have to make about 2 passes with the saw blade so that I can get some 1/4 inch to fit in there. And the back piece of the drawer is actually going to get cut down shorter than the front and the 2 sides, and that'll make a little bit more sense here in just a bit. So I got all my drawer parts pieces here. I'm just going to use a brad nailer to kind of tack it together to keep everything in place, and then I'll come back later and add in the pocket hole screws. So I'm going to slide this bottom panel in to the bottom of the drawer here. And here you'll actually be able to see why that back piece of the drawer was cut shorter. And this is just a quick and easy way to make some simple boxes. Now I'm just going to add a couple screws in the back and this thing will be all ready. With all the drawers installed now, we're going to go ahead and get started on the slide out part of the bed. We're going to do that by utilizing these 500-pound drawer slides. The cool thing about this bed design is that it's legless, and that's where these are going to come into play. Now the downside of these drawer slides is they're not soft closing or, I don't know, locking. There's nothing that keeps them from sliding out. So we have to install little ball catches and that is going to help keep the bed in place. Let's say this is in a camper van. That way it doesn't open up when you're driving down the road. So if you can't tell, we got the wrong sized drawer slides, so we're going to pick this up when the new ones come in, and now seems like a pretty good time to talk about the table saw. So on top of not having the right drawer slides, we had some technical difficulties with the microphone, but we're back, we got the new slides, and now we'll talk about this table saw. So I'd been in the market for a new table saw for a little while now. I had been using one of those contractor saws. It was a hand-me-down from my grandpa, and ultimately it was just time to make an upgrade. I had been looking into Laguna's Fusion Series table saw lineup, and the F2 really caught my eye. I reached out to Laguna to see if they wanted to be involved with a video project, and they were on board. I don't do a ton of review videos, but the ones that I do, I try to be as transparent for anybody watching. And honestly, I was gonna buy this table saw whether Laguna wanted to work with me or not. It was just kind of a bonus that they said yes. Laguna really put a lot of thought into designing the F2, from the solid cast iron top down to adding little magnets to the handle on the fence. So if you're anything like me and you're in the market for a new table saw, again, there'll be a link down in the description. I highly recommend checking it out to see what Laguna has to offer, especially the Fusion F2 table saw. So moving on to the slide out part of the bed, we're basically going to build a bottomless drawer. Much like the drawers down here, we just have to make sure that it fits between our two 500-pound slides. And then in the back, we're actually going to mount these little ball catches, so we just got to make sure that we get the clearance right there. Swallowed a wood chip. So I'm just going to use screws to install these drawer slides. However, if you wanted something stronger, you could through bolt it. You will need something low profile because you'll be inside of the drawer slide, but we're not going to do that. With the slide out part of the bed all assembled, we're going to move on to cutting all the slats. And the thing about those is we have to alternate where they are mounted. So some are going to be mounted to the mobile part of the bed and some are going to be mounted to the fixed part. I installed this riser here, and that is fit in between our slide out part of the bed, and that is to support the front end of those fixed bed slats. Hopefully that all made sense. Let's get to it. We got all the bed slats installed, so as you can see, the bed slides out. I'm just going to add a couple filler pieces here on the top of the drawer dividers for a little bit of added support. That'll be updated in the build plans. Then I'll add the drawer fronts and we'll get this thing in the van. that's a wrap. So as you can see, we got the drawer fronts on. Still need to add drawer handles yet, as well as sand and finish everything. If any of you have watched any of my videos before, I definitely lean into leather drawer pulls. This is a shameless plug, plywoodleather.com. I shouldn't do that because I don't sell leather drawer pulls yet. Again, I did a dry assembly here, but I definitely recommend adding glue to all the joints because that will help make this a lot more sturdy. I want to say thank you again to Laguna for being involved in this video. I'll mention it one more time. There's a link down in the description for the Fusion F2 table saw. If you are in the market for a new saw, I definitely recommend that one. You'll also find the build plans for this slide out bed down in the description. Those plans have instructions that go into a lot more detail. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything like that about the bed, definitely leave a comment. I'll try to get back to as many people as I can, as well as let me know if you like this style video. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. I go, hit that like button. I hate saying that. I don't think I need to say it. Should I not stand here? No.